So for today's episode of Straight Talk, we're going to get into the topic of cleaning and disinfecting using products that give those that use facilities, the workers and the visitors, peace of mind. One way to do that is with a solution that Chip McAslan, who's visiting us from Lavo Solutions, he's a CEO and founder, and we appreciate your time, Chip. He's going to answer some questions we have about what we can do as far as the cleaning industry responding to this COVID-19 pandemic. But Chip, welcome. Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. And yeah, I appreciate the time and look forward to sharing some insights from our world here today. So,
good deal.
You kind of mentioned at the onset, what can we do to help give people essentially peace of mind during the pandemic, right? I mean, it's obviously no secret that everyone's talking about cleaning and how to clean, and from our standpoint, kind of what we've been seeing, whether you're in the cleaning industry or just a consumer, is really kind of around how to prove that something has been cleaned. Right, and from our standpoint, it comes down to data as that proof and that evidence. So our tagline for our company has always been simple, clean, connected, and one of those pieces of the clean and connected side of things is really generating data in the cleaning process. So from our standpoint, really, it's people being desperate for proof when it comes to kind of what you can do to help evidence the cleaning process. And things have always existed or have been a long time, particularly in the laundry side of things. There have been equipment that can help evidence whether or not your linens have come out clean. It exists also in wear wash, and to some extent, it's now being evidenced on the surface disinfection side of things. So there's processes that have been mentioned before in terms of ATP testing at the back end, to essentially ensure that the surfaces come out clean. There's also equipment that exists to be able to help upstream ensure that you've got the right chemical coming out of your spray bottles for cleaning and disinfection as well.
Hey Chip, I noticed on your website, which is lavosolutions.com, interesting information there, but and one thing it did mention was a swab test. It showed it 3 times, before cleaning, I think during and then after. Tell us about that. How important is it to do that kind of testing?
It's important really to help kind of get your process in. And so we look at it in sort of 2 different reasons to do that. Number one, the more data, the better, right? I mean, if you can know kind of where you're at, kind of pre-clean, post-clean, and then post-disinfection, you really give yourself a much higher likelihood of knowing how well your processes work. So yeah, when in our analytic approach, you almost can't test enough when it comes down to something like a swab test. And so when you look at that, really, if you look at, let's say, the post-clean swab test, and really it comes down to how well is your janitor crew or your night crew or your team during the course of the day, how well are they cleaning, right? You can really, take that baseline data to say, hey, how do I know where I started, right? How well is my normal cleaning practice going? And you can kind of have a baseline ATP number to figure out kind of where you're at. Let's say post-disinfection swab, and you've got, let's say that, did I reset to 0? If you've got a service that comes in or you're trying to get your own facility down to that, that low baseline number, before and after swab test for disinfection also help you show, did I get back down to 0 or not? Did I get my facility to that desired level of clean, whether it's hospital grade or good enough for a manufacturing facility or office building. So you can use it at multiple points. And like I said too, the ATP and swab test piece is almost a supplemental piece of data that can come out of your application and your employee process, but then upstream as well too. There's data that helps ensure that at the point of dispensing, is the stuff that's in my spray bottle the right thing to actually do that clean. So the data can kind of help you prove out how well things are going up and down the entire cleaning process.
Yeah, I know that cleaning in the past was, boy, it looks clean, smells clean, it's clean. In today's world, we kind of need more data than that. And this testing you're talking about is going to be probably a bit more normal for many companies. Here's an extra question for you. I'm thinking as a facility or maybe a contractor, if I'm going to do these testing, if I'm going to test the process, and so I can have that confidence, is that an expensive thing to do?
It's a lot less expensive than having a COVID case or putting somebody in the hospital. So the answer is not really. I mean, compared to safety, no, it's not expensive, and in actual dollars, it's really not that expensive either. There's outside services you can have that come in and do it for you. But overall, I'd say it's taking the extra couple of minutes to validate your process is far less costly than the actual cost of the equipment.
Okay. So in regards to using buildings, what questions would you recommend that employees ask employers?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's there's sort of the tell me what you're doing, right? And there's also the show me what you're doing. And I think, particularly as you go out as a consumer and see people, at a restaurant spraying down tables, that visual evidence is something that I think everyone is now saying, all right, I need to prove to my customer and also prove to my employee base how well things are actually going. So how you're telling me that I'm safe here, but really show me what that is. So it kind of comes down to visual cues to a large extent. I'd say the other thing that employers should be thinking about when it comes to employees is really how to make it as easy as possible, right? I mean, everyone's a cleaner now, right? I mean, when you're in your office, you are cleaning your own desk. When you're in a manufacturing site, you're cleaning your workstation. You're at a restaurant, you're not only waiting a table, but you're cleaning that table as well too. And being able to make that process as easy as possible is really something that employers need to think about, particularly when it comes to the CDC guidelines and meeting and exceeding those guidelines. It has to be easy and it's got to be repeatable. And so that being said, we kind of think about cleaning in terms of, if I'm an employer, I kind of put things in three buckets, right? You kind of have you have a chemical bucket, let's say bucket one. You've got an application bucket, let's say, what tools do I use to get that chemical down? Then you've kind of got a third bucket, which is a training and did the employee do the right thing? And if you think about those three buckets, they're three completely different sets of variables also. And if there's a chance for something to go wrong in each of those three main steps, your outcome is generally going to be quite variable as well too. It could be fine, but it could be a bit of a crapshoot as well too. And so what I mean by that is, bucket one, do I have the right chemical? Is it in the spray bottle at the right dilution rate? That's where dilution control systems, and particularly connected dilution control systems, to actually evidence, now and historically, do I have the right thing in the spray bottle to get clean? You can basically take that first set of variables and say, all right, I checked the box up, I'm good here. Then now you come into application, tried and true methods, spray bottles. I mean, it works, right? But if you've got a proper spray top versus the ones that are kind of foaming and spritzing all over the place, you can kind of have an issue sometimes. But spray bottles, foamers, misters, foggers, all that stuff, even electrostatics, they all kind of do the trick. But having the right tool to be able to get chemical down, you can basically take that second bucket and cross it off and say, I'm comfortable that I can get chemical down the right way. Now you're really just down to training and execution of your employee base. So as I'm thinking about it in terms of, if I'm an employee, kind of asking my employer, don't make me have to think about those two other buckets, right? I'm here to do my job. I'm not here to be a professional cleaner necessarily. So give me the right product, give me an easy way to put it down, teach me how to do it, and you can essentially get a much better outcome every single time. I'd say from an evidence standpoint, what we have found is that we've trained hundreds of people in terms of how to do this properly. When those first two buckets are checked, the outcome is very, very consistently good in terms of that final ATP test. When bucket one, right chemical, bucket two, right applicator, you can plug anybody in that third bucket with basic training, and you're going to get great results.
So with this testing, you're not saying that we have to do a test every single time we clean. You have to make sure your process, your three buckets are working, and maybe occasionally test. Is that accurate?
That's what we've been doing so far. Absolutely. It's not the kind of thing where you want 20 people running around your facility swab testing every day. It's really about a periodic check-in. So if we're doing a disinfection once a month, what do those original baseline numbers look like? How well is your cleaning working? And you can say, hey, here's where you may be missing on your training.
Yeah, it's interesting that everyone talks about CDC guidelines. Make sure you're following them. We should always be following them before this, but now we're in this situation where it's forefront. Before we end, any other words of advice you want to share with the industry?
Number one, I mentioned kind of simple, clean, connected. It's our tagline, and really that simple line is really important, right? Help make it easy for people to be able to clean. Help make it really clear what they're doing and why, and it'll also help kind of drive just better culture and better enthusiasm for clean. The second piece I'd mentioned too is, we've, as an industry, we've spent a lot of time thinking about, hotels and restaurants and hospitals to a large extent. There's a lot of other facilities out there. I mean, I'm a manufacturing guy, and I can't tell you the number of manufacturers, just friends and industry connections, that just want to know what they're supposed to do. There's a lot of essentially essential businesses that are still open that are really, really struggling to figure this out. So as an industry, I think keeping our eyes and ears open to those, let's say, customers that haven't been a traditional market segment to focus on is a great place, because they're subject to the same guidelines a restaurant or bar or hospital are, and they need help as well too.
Chip McAslan, founder and CEO of Lavo Solutions. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a good rest of the day.